So, Ken, I wanted to ask you about, so then you go over to WWE, you make a huge impact in the UFC, you became a star, to those of the United States who didn't know you. You go over there. Tell us about, the decision to go over there and what your experience was like over there, how they came to you with the character they wanted you to be and what you thought of that.
Well, back in in that time, it was Bob Myers and Semi 4 Entertainment Group, and they were the ones that brought this whole thing together and put it on pay-per-view, and it was doing really well. Well, then you got politics that got involved in boxing and commission and all that stuff, and so they came in there and they started trying to chop the knees out from Bob Meyerowitz. And Bob Meyerowitz was always in court in every city we went in. He was always in court trying to figure out why he was having so much problem to get this event up and off the ground. And a lot of it had to do with the politics in the commission, in the boxing commission. And so it was just eating him and draining him alive. So there came a time where, really he could not afford to keep doing this and paying the guys that were on top of the money that they needed to be able to support their family. So I had an opportunity during that time. Bob Myers came to me and very professionally, said, listen, I'm running into some walls here, and I'm struggling with some of these things, and I just can't pay you the money that you need to support your family. And I said, well, Bob, I really appreciate that, but I've got to go and do something else until this thing gets fixed. And he was very polite and very respectful and very professional about it, and he allowed me to move forward to do something else. Well, during that time, I was able to get involved with wrestling and be able to showcase some of these moves that I had developed over the years into something that we call entertainment and pro wrestling. And so when I did that, I was able to go into wrestling and be able to develop this character in which Vince McMahon created for me, which was me, myself, and be able to go in there and actually showcase the world's most dangerous man, and it went really well. I was able to draw a lot of those fans from MMA into pro wrestling, and then when I went back into MMA, I was able to draw all those mainstream fans back into MMA.
Right. So am I wrong here then? I thought, and this has been years since I would have read this, but I thought I read at some point that you were angry with the character they had made you, that you didn't like, that they made you seem a little more crazy or stupid, I guess, than you really were. Was that right, or am I way off?
No, actually, I love the character they made me, and I love the matches and stuff that I had gotten. But there was some angles and stuff that they wanted me to do, and I felt that it was not in my family's best interest. There was one where my sister, who played my sister, her name was Ryan. Shamrock, which is what she played, right? And at the time, I had a 10-year-old kid and a 7-year-old kid and a 5-year-old kid and a 1-year-old baby girl, and they wanted me to, because I was running around beating everybody up for picking on her and this and that. Well, then the real reason they wanted me to have this problem was because I wanted to be with my sister sexually. And, at 10 years old as a kid, at 7-year-old as a kid, and at 3-year-old as a kid, going to school, all I could see was my kids getting in fights because people were telling them that their dad is weirdo. So I didn't want to do it, and I ran into some problems with that, and, that was really the point where I needed to make a move. And listen, trust me, it's not like that's not entertainment, because it is, and I don't have a problem with that. But during that particular time in my life, I could not do that, and so I had to make a decision.
So, just out of curiosity, then, who are some of the guys? I want to get in a minute the Nasty Boys thing, which obviously was a big deal. But did any of the guys give you a hard time and kind of want to challenge you to see how tough you really were when they came in there? And if so, who were some of the legit tough guys back then?
A lot of the guys, which I got to say, they were all really good, and I had a good time while I was there, and they were all real professional. There was a few times, we had our run-ins, but most of the time it was all pretty professional. And during times when we weren't wrestling, like when they were set up the ring, they were done setting the ring, a couple guys being there working on some stuff, and I remember Bradshaw came up to me one time, and there were some guys outside the ring, Billy Gunn and Road Dogg, and some of them were screaming at Bradshaw, "Go ahead, jump on him, Bradshaw, get him. Bradshaw would go, "No, man, So I remember laying on the ground, and I said, listen, Bradshaw, grab your best hold, man. I said, I'll let you get whatever you want, but within 30 seconds, I'll tap you out. And so they were all laughing and said, get it, man, grab him. So he jumped on me, and he grabbed me in a headlock, and he was squeezing on real tight. And within about 15 seconds, he was tapping out. So, there was those moments where these guys wanted to know, but they knew who I was, and they understood, and they respected me, just as I respected them and what they did. But they all wanted to learn also.
So you got to give Bradshaw a little credit, though, because I've always heard the stories he likes to pick on the new guys, but, it's a little different he's picking on you. So at least he gave it a shot as opposed to picking on some, the Blue Meanie or somebody.
Well, Bradshaw's a good guy, though, you know what I mean? Ever since I was there, he was always a good person, and along with all the other boys, And I rolled around with Blackman a few times, and, I showed him a few things. But a lot of the guys were really, really good people. And if you watch now, as opposed to before the Ken Shamrock days of pro wrestling, before they had one or two rest holds. Now you see hundreds and hundreds of submission holds. I mean, it just opened up the door for people to start doing and creating new things with submission holds.
So now obviously you did it before, and you weren't the first one, and Dan Severn and, tons of other guys have done both. Obviously King Mo right now is making the transition. What do you think about him doing it, and do you think that's going to open the doors now for a lot of other guys to follow him?
Well, like I said, I think that it's a great opportunity for any of these guys to, obviously be in MMA and have some fun and opportunity there. But at the same time, being able to go back into pro wrestling and do that also, to me, I think it's, have fun, man. You live one time, right? I mean, this is the world we live in where there's so much pressure on people trying to tell you what to do, when to do it, and how long you can do it. And, I've always been that person that said, listen, man, you want to try something, or if you got an itch to do something, don't wait, man. Do it. Have fun, man. You live one time, and go for it. Enjoy life, man.
All right. Do you, if you had to take one of the guys under your wing from back then in the WWE, who do you think would have made the best MMA fighter?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I've seen quite a few guys in there who I thought that had the ability that, if they had spent some time in training, that they could do well. But I think probably the one that I thought had the best opportunity would be Blackman. I thought Blackman had good wrestling, good boxing, but he just didn't have enough experience or enough training and experience in the submissions. But I thought if he put the time in, he would have.
Hey, I want to turn this over here. I want to ask you for the millionth time. I know you've talked about the Nasty Boys a million times, but there's so many versions of it out there. So I want to get your thoughts on that, and then I'm going to turn it over to Carla because I know she has a couple questions. But tell us, what really happened, how that all turned out.
Well, I was on the road. I was working for NAPW, North Atlantic Pro Wrestling. It was George Scott, Nelson Royal, and I remember the Nasty Boys had been brought in, and, I had gotten along with them a little bit. They were a little obnoxious, but whatever. It's wrestling, it's characters and different things. So, no big deal. We got involved. We went to this show, and after the show, we went to this place called Plum Crazies, and it was in Carolina. And I remember we were there, and I was with a friend of mine who had his girl with him. He wasn't a wrestler. He helped set up the ring, and, kind of a road guy, and I befriended him, a nice guy, and he had his girl with him, and she was, she was put together pretty well. And I remember we were sitting there, and they were pretty drunk. Noms, the blonde one, big tall one, was standing up next to her, and I remember he kept reaching over and grabbing her tit. And I remember my friend was, he wasn't a big guy, and his girlfriend kept slapping his hand away. And, he did this probably 2 or 3 times, and finally my friend had said something to him, come on, brother, please, man. And he looked at him, and he kind of pie-faced him and said, oh, shut up, dude. And so I was sitting next to him. This is my friend. And so I jumped up, and I told the dude, I said, you know what, man? I said, that's it. Enough, dude. That is it. Next time you touch him, break your hand. And he looked at, oh, you're a tough guy, huh? And I said, you know what? I'll be who I have to be. And I remember the other one came around. Sags came around. So what's happening, Goofy? What's going on? So they started trying to get in my face, and that's when I lost it. So I threw my drink at him, and I went after him. Well, as soon as that happened, the bouncer came up behind me, and he grabbed me because they see what was going on. He brought me into the bathroom, picked me up off my feet, and brought me in the bathroom. He's a pretty big guy. He brought me in the bathroom, and he said, "Kid, man, calm down, brother. They're out of here. We kicked them out. When you come out of here, just be cool." And so he let me out of the bathroom, and I came out, and they were gone. Well, I was pretty pissed off at this time. So we were all staying in the same hotel. So I went to the hotel. I knew what room they were staying in. I remember banging on the door, and they wouldn't open the door. So I remember I kicked the door in. And after I kicked the door and I came in, and the first thing I saw was I seen Sags laying on the bed, passed out. And that's the last thing I remember. Well, from what I heard from the doctor's report was that, because the police report, that the tall one had hit me in the back of the head with the steel phone. You know, it's one of these hotels where they had a steel plate on the back of the phone, and when I came through the door, he'd smashed me in the back of the head. Well, as soon as I hit him in the back of the head, I went down on the ground, and they started putting the boots to me. Both of them. What's his name wasn't even passed out. It was kind of a setup. So they jumped up, put the boots to me, broke my sternum, broke my eye socket, put me in a concussion, and almost killed me. I mean, I died in the ambulance going to the hospital. And so I was recovered. It took me a year to recover, and then I recovered, got back to business. And I remember the whole time I was pissed. And these guys had just left the territory and went into the WWF. And I kept saying to myself, if I ever see them guys, I'm going to kill them. And I had this thing driving with me for so long. About 4 years later, I run across Knobs, right? And I'm in the WWF at this time. And I'm with Road Dogg, and I'm with Billy Gunn, and I'm getting ready to check in at the ticket gate, and there he is, standing there. And all of a sudden, it was like blowing the lid off my head, just blew up, right? And my face was red, and I remember Billy going, "What's wrong with you, man?" And I remember walking right up to this guy, and I was going to smash him, right? I remember Billy standing in front of him, "Don't do it again." And I'm looking at Knobs, and I'm going, "Man, I'm going to kill you, dude. I'm going to kill you." And he goes, "Man, dude, it's been a long time, man. Relax, man." And I said to him, "Man, I'm going to kill you." And I remember Billy had to grab me and pull me away from him. As he's pulling me away, right, he takes off. I mean, literally takes off running. And so Billy finally gets me calmed down. We get checked in, and we start going up towards our gate. And we get to our gate, and I hear this voice, right? And there's two of them there. It's Knobs and Sags. And I hear this guy go, "Man, what's wrong with Shamrock?" There's probably about 20 boys sitting there, right? "What's wrong with Shamrock, man? Somebody's got a chill pill, man. He walks around thinking he's all badass or something, man. He better watch himself." He doesn't see me, right? As soon as I hear it, Billy goes, "Oh, shit." I fly out after this guy. I jump over the chair. I grab him. I spin him around. And I look at him. I said, "I'm standing right here, little bitch. What do you want to do now?" I said, "I'm going to freaking kill you." And I remember him standing there looking at me, right? And I'm getting ready to tear into him. I mean, I am literally getting ready to tear this man apart, right? This is the thing that happened right here. And I could not believe my ears after all the shit he talked, after all the stuff he said, and standing in front of 20 of the boys. He turned. He had a bag in his hand. He turned like he was going to try and hit me, right? He drops his bag. He turns his back to me, and he says, "If you hit me, it's a federal offense." I went, "Are you freaking kidding me? After all this time, after all this thing, after you talking about being such a badass and whipping my ass, you were punking out like this in front of everybody?" I was like, oh, my God. It couldn't have been more better that it happened that way. Because I could have beat his ass. I'd have went to jail or whatever. But for him to do that in front of all of the boys sitting right there at the gate, pussing out like he did, couldn't have been more better than anything that I could have ever done to him. I just walked all the anger I had at him. I looked at him and I said, how friggin' pathetic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You know, you could have beat his ass, you know, but the pain goes away, but making him look like a chump in front of everybody, you know, it probably worked out the best for you.
Well, what it did was it completely confused me, right? Because I'm sitting here thinking I'm going to rip this guy apart. And he turns to me. Here's this guy who's 6'5", 6'6", 270 pounds. And he turns his back to me and says, "You hit me, it's a federal offense." I was like, what? What? How do I respond to that?
All right, you just got a few minutes here left. Just, you know, a little bit as far as the later stuff. You came back. You know, as far as taking the time off from your MMA career to do the wrestling, do you kind of now look back and you wish you had been able to keep doing the MMA because that way you could have had the bigger fights and maybe done more with your record?
No, I didn't get that question. What was that?
Well, I was going to say, do you kind of regret, you know, I mean, obviously you didn't have a choice, you know, you went to WWF for, you know, for financial reasons and you didn't have the opportunity to keep doing the MMA, but do you kind of regret in a way that you lost a few of those prime years to fighting?
No. Like I said earlier when we were talking, is that you live one time, and I really believe you got to do things that, you know, is fun, going to make you happy, but at the same time you want to make sure that you know, that you're successful, and don't do something stupid and ruin your career. But, you know, I thought I did very well in my career. I captured a lot of different titles, a lot of different places. I was always main event. From the time I stepped into the ring, I was always main event, always semi-main event, and nothing less. I was always on top for 13 years, whether it was, you know, anywhere. And so I got an opportunity to go to pro wrestling and do something there and have some fun there because, you know, obviously I wasn't making the money I needed to in MMA, and I did that. And I did it because I thought it would be something that would be fun and entertaining for me. And it was. And I look back on it now, and I thought it was a great move because not only did it was fun for me, and I thought it was a good move for me because I went public, was that it also helped MMA because when I turned around and went back into MMA, I brought thousands and thousands and thousands of fans with me into MMA that didn't know MMA at that time.